Once again, it's that time of year where we all look back at the year in gaming and go, wow, I played some damn good games this year. And then people like me, who have too much free time on their hands, make a list, usually of 10 games, that were their absolute favourite. And I am no stranger to this, as I did this last year. And to be honest, it was one of the most fun I had making a video. I've always been a fan of watching other people's videos on it, so here I am ranking the new games I played in 2025. And this year, like last year, was an incredible year for video games. Arguably a much better year than last year. It could be argued, depending on your tastes and preferences, that this year could be an all-timer, up there with 2017 and 2007. But despite that, I definitely didn't play as many games as I did last year, literally only finishing my 10th new game a couple of weeks ago. Instead, this year, I really ploughed through the backlog. This year I played some really great games that I won't include on the list, but I just thought I would mention. I played and I beat the first God of War, Devil May Cry and Luigi's Mansion this year. Devil May Cry and God of War had some rough edges that come with it being the first in the series, but both still fantastic and very enjoyable. Luigi's Mansion though hasn't aged today, and it was a blast that I went through in one sitting. I also experienced beloved classics like The Wolf Among Us and Fallout New Vegas, which I liked so much it changed the way I look at Bethesda-style RPGs. And then of course, like last year, I want to emphasise that I am only one person who can only play so much. So I didn't play every big release in 2025, so there will be some notable omissions from my list. Those being Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, a game that my friend recommends highly and is on the backlog. There's also the massive multiplayer games that unfortunately don't appeal to me, or a lack of interested friends. Those being Battlefield 6, Ark Raiders and Peak. I didn't have any interest in the first Death Stranding, so I didn't play the second despite the critical acclaim. And finally, I haven't played Hades 2, but that's not due to a lack of interest. I'm just waiting for the PlayStation release, otherwise I know this would have easily been top 4. But they're the notable omissions, let's get to the top 10 list. Well, something has to be number 10. In all seriousness though, Mario Kart World is a good video game, as the only notable new launch title with the Switch 2, so all those who got a Switch 2 day one like me, you played a lot of Mario Kart, and for me personally, I got my fill pretty quick, which doesn't bode well for the first $80 Switch 2 game. It doesn't mean the content is lacking, as there is a big open world to explore with, nothing much to do in it. Yeah, unfortunately, I believe it's a good game. Mario Kart World just didn't do much for me personally. I liked the new knockout mode, but other than that, the game left no impression. I played it for about 10 hours in June, and I haven't touched it since. Unless any sort of meaningful DLC is added, I probably won't go back. A shame really, as I love Mario Kart on the Wii, and I was hoping this would make me love Mario Kart again. Alas, this wasn't the one. So here's the first controversial opinion on my list. Don't worry, there's plenty more of them to come. And that's having Pokemon Legends Z8 anywhere near a top 10 best game of the year. But it's my list, and honestly, I really enjoyed Legends EA. A lot more than most, apparently, as this is one of the many games the internet did what the internet does, and tear the game limb from limb. But despite the game's faults, I had a lot of fun with Legends EA. Legends Arceus is one of my favourite modern Pokemon games, as it tried to change up the formula, even if it was only slightly, to try and bring some life back into modern Pokemon. For some people, the changes weren't drastic enough, but to me, it was the modern reinvention Pokemon needed. And Legends ZA is a different iteration of that formula. Where Arceus was more focused on catching, ZA is all about the battling. And depending on your preferences, ZA might be a lot more appealing, because the new battle system is great, and lets me live out my Pokemon anime dreams I had, as the battles are a lot closer to the anime than the main series. Add that onto a much better looking game than Arceus, and a story that pretty much serves as the Pokemon Z we never got back in the day. I really enjoyed my time with ZA. Yeah, the game being only in Lumiose is a little lame, but I still enjoyed my time with it. For someone who very much enjoyed Ghost of Tsushima, but clearly didn't love it as much as the rest of the internet, I think Ghost of Yotei is a better game in every measure. Yes, including the story. Most people would agree that the gameplay of Yotei is superior to that of Tsushima. The combat is more diverse than Tsushima, the open world is a lot more condensed than that of Tsushima, and the open world has less to do, but it's a lot more meaningful than that of Tsushima, which to me feels like it was a bit bloated for my liking, and Yotei fixes that. And to be honest, I think most will agree with me on this front. Most will disagree with me though when it comes to the story, as Yotei has a pretty by-the-numbers revenge storyline, something we have had a lot of in recent years, so a lot of people are feeling pretty tired of that trope. A lot of people simply did not like the main character, Atsu, a brash and rough around the edges character compared to Jin Sakai. But to me, although she took a while to grow on me, she eventually did, and by the end of it, I liked her more than Jin. Controversial, I know, but to me, Ghost of Yotei was a great sequel to Tsushima. But I hope this is the last we see of the Ghost series for a while, as I have dreams for a thieving raccoon to make his grand return. Last year, I played my first Silent Hill game, that being Silent Hill 2 Remake, a game that made it in my top 5 list of last year, as I absolutely adored it. In fact, I would put it even higher if I made the list today, as the game has truly stuck with me, and so it only makes sense that I would be extremely excited for the release of Silent Hill F. And for the most part, I think it was fantastic. The story in Silent Hill F is something I have never experienced in a game before, a harrowing tale about the expectations of womanhood in 1960s Japan. In a piece I would never be able to truly understand, but it made me empathetic towards our main character Hinako and her struggles in a very different story to Silent Hill 2. Although I ultimately prefer Silent Hill 2, as Silent Hill F has one flaw, and that's its combat, which went for a drastic departure than the other games in the series, by completely getting rid of guns and going completely in on melee combat, with a stamina bar which a lot of people immediately compared to the Souls series, including the game's director. But unfortunately, it just doesn't work great in my opinion. It's clunky and frustrating, and every enemy, especially those big blobby things, were far too tanky, even on the easiest difficulty. Add on a durability system for the weapons you carry, which is a love it or hate it mechanic in games. Guess where I land on the matter? It leads to a frustrating gameplay experience, and this is a game that wants you to finish it multiple times to experience the whole narrative. But those frustrations overall didn't really affect my time with Silent Hill F, as I went in hoping for a grotesquely harrowing story, and that's exactly what I got, and I loved it. I don't think any video game company had quite an up and down year quite like Nintendo did this year. There was the high anticipation of the Switch 2 reveal, then it was revealed and there were plenty of people who were disappointed. It was just a more powerful Switch. Then there was the hype of the release week, where it was the talk of the town and it became the fastest selling console of all time. But then there was the discourse about the price of not only the console, but the first $80 video game of the modern era. And that's just about the release of the Switch 2. But one of the highlights of Nintendo's year we can mostly agree on is that Donkey Kong Bonanza was awesome. Although I grew up with a lot of Nintendo, Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, one series I never did play was Donkey Kong. No reason in particular, it just never happened. But it's a series that I've always admired from afar. When it was revealed that the next game from the Mario Odyssey team was a 3D Donkey Kong game, I knew this was going to be the first game I played in the series. And wow, what an experience this was. And that's how I would describe Bonanza, an experience. It had such a unique structure to it. On the surface, it's a 3D platformer with the unique mechanic of being able to destroy your surroundings and collect the Bonandium gems in any way you want in the Breath of the Wild approach. But it's also a story told with music that tells a pretty by-the-numbers story of two unlikely characters teaming up to reach a shared goal, but it's brought together by an engaging gameplay hook and told with music that's extremely corny, but for me it worked, and made my time with Donkey Kong Bonanza a memorable one. It's one of the finest 3D platformers I've ever played in recent years, and that ending sequence I genuinely think might be one of the best in a Nintendo game I've ever seen. And like I said, I wasn't a Donkey Kong fan before, but after Bonanza I can confidently say that I wasn't before, but I definitely am now. Once again, like I did last year, I want to have an honourable mention of a game where I don't know if it would be appropriate for this list, but it would also feel wrong not to talk about it, as it was an incredible game. And that game is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, a game that was released on Xbox towards the end of last year, but I played it when it came out on PlayStation back in April, so to avoid semantics, I will just have it here as an honourable mention. But anyways, the game itself really has no right to be as good as it is, as it's genuinely the best piece of Indiana Jones media since the original trilogy, with a great story, with the outstanding performances from Troy Baker as Indy that's already been well documented, but I think the standout was Mario Gavrilis as Voss, as he was truly despicable in the best way. The gameplay as well, unexpectedly first person, which you wouldn't think should work, but it just does, and ended up surprising with how much I enjoyed it. It's got clever, engaging puzzles and great hand-to-hand combat, and looks stunning. I do feel it overstayed its welcome a tiny bit with the weird endless corridors, but an overall fantastic game that I genuinely can say I was positively surprised by. To me at least, of all the smash out hits that have come out this year, the one that seems to have been talked about the least, and the one that I feel was perhaps snubbed at the Game Awards, is Split Fiction. Split Fiction is truly imagination and creativity at its fullest, as I envy the creativity and imagination that the team at Hazelight have, because I think they have it in spades. And it's crazy to think that Hazelight are owned by the creativity vacuum that is EA, but I thank them for funding Joseph Fares and his wacky ideas, because even though this guy loves to drop the F-bomb whenever he gets given a microphone on stage, in all fairness, he knows how to make a good fucking video game. I love The Way Out for its superb narrative. I have ashamedly never played It Takes Two, which I'll be remedying next year, but Split Fiction has truly left the bar extremely high. It follows two young writers, Zoe and Mio, who write fantasy and sci-fi books respectively, and write their journey through their novels as they try to stop an evil company from stealing their ideas. Sounds very similar to something that's happening in real life, can't quite put my finger on it though. The story to the game isn't where it shines though, it's the gameplay, and especially the level design, as every level is strong enough to be the setting to one game on its own, but you have all these in just one game. It feels like Hazelight is just showing off, and this is married with fun, fast platforming that me and my mate, who I platinumed this game with, had smiles on our faces the whole time, and for two individuals that are dead inside, that's a pretty good accomplishment. Well, I'm sure this isn't going to be a controversial pick, but yes, the latest Internet Punching Bag is one of my favourite games of the year. So let me start by saying, yeah, the desert isn't great, it's pretty lifeless and ugly to look at, but is it the worst thing in the world? To me, no. It's just a way to get from one area to another. Does it add anything to the game? No, but it was pretty inoffensive to me, which is a hot take compared to the rest of the internet. And then there's the green crystals, and again, they aren't great, but as long as you're grabbing them as you go, especially grabbing the ones in the shrines, you really don't have to grind them, so I had no issues with them. But with that being said, the reason that this is so high on the list is because to me, that Metroid core is so damn strong, and honestly, I can't get enough of it. Going through Vault Forge and Icebelt were the highlights for me, as creepy isolating atmosphere with great upgrades and grabbing missile upgrades and energy tanks is like crack to me. I understand that a lot of people Prime 4 was a disappointment, as it was too similar to the old Prime games and didn't evolve the formula, and after a long wait, it only soured the experience. But call me old-fashioned, but the game gave me everything I wanted from Prime 4. A little bit extra that wasn't wanted, but far from ruining the whole game for me. It was more Metroid Prime, and that's good enough for me. And as a huge Metroid fan, I'm probably biased, but it was by far my favourite game I played on the Switch 2 this year, and I'm not sorry about it. I just hope the negative press doesn't cause the game to bomb, because I would love to see a Prime 5, because I believe Metroid is in good hands with Retro. Now this was the biggest surprise of the year to me. Rarely am I taken aback from a game I had little to no expectations for, only to come out and to me enjoy it as much as I did. When you're as chronically online like I am, especially in the gaming space, you rarely get surprised from games, but Dispatch was truly a wonderful surprise I wasn't expecting. Dispatch, for those who don't know, is a Telltale-like choice-based narrative game that follows Robert Robertson III, a former hero turned dispatcher of a team of former villains who have turned over a new leaf. Now, for a lot of people, including myself, superhero media has gone a little stale in recent years, bar a few certain exceptions, and Dispatch is certainly anything but stale. It's clever, it's funny, and it's unique. I've never seen anything quite like it in the superhero media before, and I loved it. All the voice actors knock it out the park as well, including all the YouTubers and TikTokers they got in, but Aaron Paul as Robert Robinson is the absolute standout. I was genuinely robbed from a nomination at the Game Awards, but the biggest surprise actually comes from the gameplay, which may be hit or miss for some people, but I loved it, and actually found it rather addicting. It's just a basic sending out the right hero for the right job, and watch the circle bounce around and hopefully end up in the right area. It doesn't exactly sound exciting, but I don't know, it just scratches the right itch in my brain, and over the 8 chapters, I didn't even get slightly bored of it, and even after 3 playthroughs, I was happy to do more of it. I know I did a whole video on why I don't think narratively we need a Dispatch Season 2, but I would have a different story with this gameplay, as I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would, and honestly, it has little to no flaws for me. And if 1 and 2 on this list weren't all-timer games for me, then it would have been number 1. But unfortunately for it, 2025 really did bring in 2 juggernauts that were never going to be topped in my eyes. When you anticipate a game for years, the expectations you can have on that game only grows and grows as time goes on. Might even get to the point where your expectations for the game are so damn high, the game itself would simply never deliver your lofty expectations. I've been burned before, waiting years for a game only to be disappointed when the game isn't the second coming of Christ. But since that disappointment, I've tried my best to temper my expectations when it comes to any video game I highly anticipate. But with Hollow Knight Silksong, that simply wasn't possible. The original Hollow Knight is my favourite indie game of all time, so my anticipation for Silksong was a lot higher than pretty much any game since Kingdom Hearts 3. But unlike Kingdom Hearts 3, Silksong hit my expectations and then some. Never have I loved and despised a gaming experience quite like I did with Silksong, because despite it being one of the finest Metroidvanias ever crafted, it also might be one of the hardest I have ever played as well. But it was difficulty done right, as no game has pushed me this year quite like Silksong, but I wouldn't push through it if I didn't absolutely love it. I never thought controlling Hornet would be as fun as it is, as in the original game the Knight is perfect, but honestly after playing Silksong, the Knight feels slow and a bit sluggish in comparison. Add on Hornet's combat repertoire, pretty much everything from a gameplay side to me at least ends up being the perfect Metroidvania. I don't know how they did it, but those madmen in Adelaide made a second masterpiece. Is it better than the original? To me, it's only slightly not as good as it, but it's pretty damn close. Then in itself is a damn miracle. But in the year that Silksong finally released and not only met expectations, but exceeded them, how can there be another game that I liked better than it? It must be something pretty darn special. Nintendo Switch, welcome to Woo! Jokes of course. If you've seen any video from me, this is absolutely no shock. But I'm also self-aware and realise that this opinion is not wholly unique, so I won't go into too much detail why it's my game of the year, as most people who have watched many gaming videos this year and heard them talk about Expedition 33, they probably feel like this. Alright, I get it! So I'll simply say, Expedition 33 is not only my game of the year, it's my game of the decade, the last 2 decades. It's truly an extraordinary piece of art that will truly never get over. I love this game so much, words don't really justify it. Good luck Samfo, because your next game has an impossible task, because this is the sort of game that only comes around once a generation. If you were able to match it, or even top it, I would actually have to start loving the French, and that's a scary thought. If you stay to the end, thank you. Hoping you all had a wonderful holidays and a fantastic new year, and hopefully you will join me again in the new year, as I hope it will be the best year for the channel yet. If you liked the video, please consider liking and subscribing, and let me know your top 10 in the comments below. But once again, thank you for watching, and hopefully I will see you again.